In Chapter 1, Diem realizes the terrifying return of her suppressed visions after abandoning her flame root treatment, which had long kept her powers dormant. When a radiant crown appears above her head, her brother Teller confirms it is real, declaring her the new Queen of Lumnos, meaning the king is dead. Refusing to believe it, Diem searches the sea for the discarded flame root, desperate to stop what she believes is madness. Their confrontation is interrupted by Lily, the princess, who kneels before Diem, confirming the divine selection. Diem protests, insisting she is mortal, but her gray eyes and unnatural power suggest otherwise. Teller explains she must face the rite of coronation, and, in 30 days, the deadly period of challenging. Knowing Luther, the prince, will soon discover the truth, Diem resolves to hide. With Lily's help, she plans to take refuge in a secluded royal cabin until she finds a way to undo her unwanted coronation. In Chapter 2, Diem retreats to the Royal Hunting Lodge, a secure cabin accessible only with royal blood, confirming her selection as Queen of Lumnos. Lily leaves to gather supplies, and Diem contemplates Luther's likely reaction to losing the crown. She warms herself by the fire, struggling with frostbitten fingers and the trauma of surviving the armory fire, while reflecting on her mortality and the responsibilities now thrust upon her. Her moment of solitude is interrupted when Luther appears, furious and armed, believing Diem or her mother may have caused the king's death, confronting her about her actions at the palace. Diem denies involvement and insists she does not want the crown, attempting to keep the situation under control. Luther's magic and sword intimidate her, yet she maintains defiance. During the ensuing tension, Diem recalls the cruelty she has witnessed from Luther and the Descended, solidifying her resolve to survive the rite of coronation, endure the period of challenging, and ultimately overthrow the Descended to protect mortals. In Chapter 3, Diem exits Luther's horse and strides toward the palace, summoning the Gryvern Sarai through the bond of the Crown of Lumnos, which calls to her and the beast. Sorai arrives, demonstrating loyalty and power, intimidating the guards and signaling her recognition of Diem as queen. Diem asserts control over Sorai, confirming their deep mutual bond, and contemplates the Gryvern's potential to defend her against Descended, other crowns, and threats to mortals. Observing Luther's reaction, she notes his curiosity and perhaps regret at failing to eliminate her earlier, realizing Sorai now ensures her safety. Diem enters the palace with Luther following, the guards yielding respectfully, and she approaches the chamber prepared for her first audience. Luther advises caution, warning her Gryvern may act unpredictably, and offers guidance on interacting with his family, which Diem declines, mistrusting him. They proceed to the carved oak doorway depicting Sorai, and with Luther's counsel, Diem steps forward to claim the throne while maintaining secrecy about her identity, plans, and mother. In Chapter 4, Diem enters the Corbois family's sitting room unprepared, confronting over 100 Descended royals in elaborate attire, noting her own muddy, mortal appearance and lack of weapons, feeling overwhelmed and out of place. Luther introduces her as the new Queen of Lumnos, prompting the room to kneel, including Lily, and she asserts her authority by allowing them to rise. Remy Corbois, the late king's younger brother, declares himself regent until her rite of coronation, introducing family members including Gareth, Freya, Taryn, Aemon, Avanna, and Lillian, as well as notable allies Alixi and Eleanor. Diem reveals her mortal parentage, causing shock and whispers, which Luther clarifies, identifying her father Andre as adopted. Remus offers her the protection and resources of House Corbois to secure her position and prevent other houses from challenging her. Diem agrees to consider the offer, recognizing the necessity of strategic alliances and the dangers of confronting the Descended without support. In Chapter 5, Diem isolates Princess Lily to address her betrayal, reassuring her she is not angry and instructing her to secretly bring Teller to the palace the following day. Luther intervenes, emphasizing the dangers Diem faces as queen and offering his guidance and protection, while warning that if she refuses House Corbois, she would be isolated against the other Descended houses. He reveals that he had guessed the truth about her father, forcing Diem to accept her half-mortal heritage publicly. Their tense discussion is interrupted by Aemon, who offers Diem a palace tour, and she accepts, establishing alliances cautiously. Later, Diem and Luther walk through the palace, discussing upbringing and responsibilities. He arranges for her to stay in a private wing until the royal suite is available, warning that the hunting lodge is unsafe. Luther provides her with